Hello, it's Cryptolyze. I hope you are well on this Sunday, 12 November 2023. It is with pleasure that I meet you today to talk crypto, to talk BTC, to talk psychology a little bit. It's going to be a bit like Psycho Sunday. It's the video from about a week ago. We also covered the psycho part. We're going to come back to this because I had a particular message on Discord, which echoed many other messages that I have in comments. And I find that it is very interesting to talk about the notion of exposure and the notion really of false words and the emotion that gives off it, especially in a moment like we are currently having, where we had a week of very strong acceleration at the level of BTC. But not only BTC, altcoins too. And therefore there are lots of people who are asking questions, full of feelings that start to happen. Good, not good, and all that. We approach it together. As a reminder, you always have the possibility of having free access to the educational course, which is a 60-hour training worth €400, which allows you to learn blockchain, crypto, investment, analysis technique, trading, everything to become profitable. Through 130 videos, 400 pages of guides, quizzes to find out where you are in your progress, and all for free. To have access to this lifelong training, simply use the platform of one of our partners. Everything is explained in the comments and descriptions. So yes, I'm not going to go back to the video I made yesterday. I gave you my point of view on what is happening. Nevertheless, we have had a huge upward acceleration in recent weeks, with first, second, third, fourth. So we have had 4 consecutive weeks. It's been a month of push at the BTC level. It's been a long time since we didn't have that, especially when we have just come out of 2 years of bear market where it was very hard psychologically to hold and manage its positions, its exposure if ever we had held cryptos, in fact, throughout this bear market. So obviously we have a moment where we have a breather and we have a surge in the price. And I am going to talk to you of something, and for that we are going to take a little step back. We are going to take a step back from what is happening here. We are just in this zone there, which corresponds more or less to this zone here of agreement. Historically, we would not even be a little. Shortly before the halving, the 3 little points here is the halving. We would no longer be in this zone here. Okay, the same here. If we come back, we would be somewhere around there once again. We take a step back. And here, I'm going to show you the messages I got on the Discord. So in this case, it's not to target the person. It has nothing to do with it. I warned him that I was going to use these screens to make this video because it's extremely important, I think, to talk about it. And it's not the alone. I mean, it's very, very far from being the only one given that I very often get these messages on the Discord or on the comments. And it's really very common. I missed the bull run. It's sad, even if there is a correction, we will never return to good price levels. That's a shame, Peer, Naka, NXRA, Sol, all yours. So already the first 3, there you go anyway. And then bro, it's a big one, this pump is big. Excuse me, I'm having a little trouble too. Everyone FOMO in, it's going up hard, I hadn't accumulated enough, and there I missed some big opportunities. Namely that he is a person who lived through the last cycle and who was busted during the last cycle, that's what he told us. Particularly on the Discord. And it's very interesting to think about what's happening. And this message, I missed the bull run. It's sad. The reaction agreement will never come back. And what I like is understanding what happens when we actually have this type of thinking. And here, I think it's really important to put it into perspective. We are going to use precisely this element, which is the BTC in 1 month in logarithmic terms, which represents each of the cycles. We have this cycle here, so which is 2012 to 2016, the cycle 2016 to 2020 and 2020 to 2023 minus 2024, okay? And I just want to clarify that, in fact, where are we? We are here, okay? Where are we? We are here. So, at a given moment, consider that the bull run, to have missed the bull run, while the bull run has not yet started, or in any case, it is perhaps a pre-bull run, or even let's admit it has started, it's the start of a bull run. Well, I mean, on this part, we did 500% okay. On this part, how much did it do? We did 4,000%. Okay. At one point, we didn't miss anything at all. Here, we are just at the beginning. And again, here we are on BTC. If we look at the total 3, same, where are we currently? It's simple. We are in this period of rupture. We are here. Okay? What does that represent? Well, the same. Here we are at 900% on the total 3. The total 3, which represents all cryptos excluding BTC and excluding ETH. So it's true, all altcoins. Okay, well, let's admit. So look, Ethereum, we are approximately in this area. Okay, let's admit. How much does that represent? That represents 1,000%. At what point can I consciously tell myself that I missed the bull run? At what point can I tell myself that I missed what is happening? So on that, we're not going to spit on the person. It has nothing to do with it. It's a psychological phenomenon that we can all feel. And I think you felt it in your life, and we talk about it a lot in investment and in crypto because it feels huge. But it's not something that is unique to that. It's something that we experience a lot in social networks in general. It's the notion of FOMO. So FOMO, which is precisely the fear of missing out, which is the fear of missing something, even to go further is the fact of feeling precisely such frustration, because we are shown that there is something that happened in which we did not participate. There are two types of false words. There is the false word of being afraid of missing something in which I will be hyperactive. So in which I will, for example, not put down my phone because I don't want to miss the latest news on TikTok. And the thought of, well, we're showing me that it's happening, that people are succeeding, are racking up monumental numbers, and I'm not. And in fact, it is this feeling that is really very important to understand what it is and to accept it. It's not something that is easy to do because it's the reaction of our brain that is like that. And it actually takes time to manage and to understand and to accept the fact that in fact it is the reality or not. In fact, it has little impact and we don't have to feel like that. We don't have to write messages of despair because you just have the first three messages, but it continued. This is someone who I think is clearly in a form of despair over what is happening. So on that, I'm just going to come back already one more time. There is a psychological part which is very strong in investing, which makes us do it. Because when we are in a reaction like that, we are totally stupid. I mean, when we are in a period of false words, we never make good decisions. Never. Like, that's really impossible. So we really need to get out of that and put things into perspective. First of all, we are here. When did I miss everything? I mean, if we were there, yes, indeed, I missed everything. We agree. Well, that's not the case. We are very, very far from there. So, yeah, okay, it pumped okay as a reminder. Solana, it pumped okay the same when we look at the periods September 2020 and December 2020, and the start of the bull run, which was the start of 2021. Well, Solana, we were in the $2 just to give you. And then what did we do? 250. Okay, just to give you some perspective, okay? That we were at 8%. Okay, EGLD, same. We look, period 2020. First acceleration, retracement, beginning of 2021. How much did we do? Well, 5,600%, 5,800%. At some point, you have to put things into perspective. For what? Because right now, we are experiencing an upward acceleration of an already existing ecosystem. However, aside, the biggest multipliers that we have had are multipliers, not of old cryptos, but of new cryptos, of new narratives that have arrived on the bull run. Here I'm just talking about things that happened just before the bull run, but there were plenty of things that were born during the bull run and that had the upward acceleration of multiples of X100 at the time of the bull run. And we haven't missed anything. We're at the right time. And I mean, in any case, if we consider that we missed out even though we had all these periods to prepare psychologically, invest in all these periods and even admit we are here. I mean, when is it bad? I give you, this time I'm going to remove that, but I give you the overall vision, at which point I can say that 37,000 on the PTC, when we will have a price which will be 1,20,000, is bad? I mean, at what point can you consider X3 to be bad? This must be taken into consideration. And I mean, if we have this feeling of despair at this point, at this moment it is because we do not have an exposure. It is because we are not exposed. And at what point can we not be exposed when we have already been in a bear market for such a long time in which we have had phases of depression, whether following Terra Luna and Celsius, whether following FTX or even currently, nothing stops us from saying, okay, we may be overexposed. Perhaps we are in the bull run, so that means that at that moment we will push upwards very hard. Okay, let's admit. But let's admit that's not the case. We're in a real bull run. We're starting to retrace. We're breathing. But we cannot determine that now. We can have guesses. Me personally, I have my vision, I have my hypotheses, I have my percentages for each of the strategies that I have, each of the hypotheses that I have. But in any case, I am ready for each. direction. If we are ever in total despair at having missed the train, that means we don't have our foot in it. And at that point, why don't we go back now, keeping in mind that potentially we can indeed take off, or we could very well collapse, go and retest the 35, retest the 32, retest the 25. Why not retest the 20? We never know. Why wouldn't we actually have this reflection by saying to ourselves, okay, well, the train is leaving. Do I want to be on the sideline? How exposed am I? And to what extent am I not? Do I have enough cash for when the bull run really hits, and I have projects that could be really interesting, that I could expose myself to these projects at that time? Do I have enough cash to do this? Finally, there's all this thinking. There's no reason to feel this way. So I will also explain to you why you feel it. So that's not you and yourself, it's also a little bit of what's happening now. That is to say that we are in a dynamic where everyone is returning to the market. When I say everyone, it is implied all the bulls who were in total despair when we were at 15,000, saying that this is it. It's the bull run, because it's starting again. And so everyone is displaying their multiples. Everyone is displaying what they have achieved. But at some point understand that it is a form of communication that is normal. There is a euphoria that comes when we have an acceleration like that. And that's also something that's normal. When we have euphoria on one side and precisely the opposite side, we will have a form of FOMO which will set in place. Because there are some who succeed and those who have been less successful or who have not succeeded or who are not ready to succeed, at that moment there is this feeling of exasperation that we arrives and fear, anxiety, which is precisely this FOMO. And this is something that we find a lot on social networks, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, where we are actually shown successes that are easy. But at a given moment, there is nothing that is easy. Understand that suffering a 2-year bear market, training, receiving monumental slaps during that, whether it is a cycle for those who have only been there on cycle or those who are there on previous cycles, finally we are training. We learn to manage. It's not something that is innate. And so, at some point you have to breathe, you have to accept, and you have to move forward. And it's normal to feel that because we have in fact, a form of communication that has been provided by the networks. Social networks. It has always existed, but it is actually amplified by social networks in which we have access to information and we have image communication. That is to say, I show you that everything is simple, everything is easy, and everything is beautiful. We don't just show you behind, maybe we show you that someone did 300%, okay, but at what point does it not show that he did perhaps less 500 or less 600% the day before? Finally, at some point, you have to take a step back from that. Everyone is in the same boat. There are some who have a fairly aggressive DSA policy, who have managed their exposure because they are trained for 2 years, because they have already suffered a lot. There are others who have been lucky, because they arrived right on cue, but I can tell you that when they leave, it won't be the same thing, and it will be much more complicated for them. And generally, it's those who have a first cycle, who don't have a first cycle, and so it's their first cycle behind, but just take a step back. There's no mistaking that we're leaving, that we're not leaving. In fact, we're just fine. We just have to enjoy. On the other hand, if we are not exposed enough, okay, nothing prevents us from setting up a DCA policy with the back of keeping a pocket of liquidity in the case, whether or not we retrace. And at what point can we be sure and certain to say that we will never be traced? I mean, everyone is FOMOing. Yes, it's classic, but I mean, the bull run, it's not just FOMO, it's a generic liquidity injection in which we have to, on the communication side, we have new arrivals. We have lots of other elements which determine that FOMO is just a representation. But I mean, as a reminder, here we have FOMO. For this acceleration here, we have very much FOMO. As a reminder, here we were. Finally, everyone was on the table. Crypto Twitter was totally on the table, saying that we were in a super cycle, that we were not going to break this level, and that we were going to trace. Well, then it's a big blow. At a given moment, FOMO is not representative of a bull run, and that's why you just have to take a step back. It's not because in my comments, for example, I'm told, but you're going to miss it. The train, in any case, we will never go back to 35,000. There is never ever in a market, okay? There is never ever in a market. The only thing you have to be sure of is to be prepared for all eventualities. This is the only way you can survive in an investment market and succeed in investing. It's not by listening to people who tell you, but it's never going to go down, or it's only going to go up, or it's never going to go back up. It's the same. Those who thought we were going to 10K, those who currently think we were going to 10,000, or those who thought here that we were going to 10,000, it's the same principle. We have the BR extremes and the bull extremes. We have the two confronting each other. But it's not because the two clash that we have to give in and absorb it. we have to put it aside. Me, personally, when I see this type of thing which tells me that, in any case, it's too late, we missed the train, and ciao, we left in the request, okay. But in fact, these comments are unnecessary because in fact it is the person who is trying to reassure themselves by writing this and to convince more people that they are right. Just factually, we are in an acceleration phase. We have no way of knowing if we are in a bull run or if we are in a retracement. There are people. Each person has their own hypotheses. It's up to you to construct the yours and above all to prepare yourself if your hypothesis is ever false. And the hypothesis of your neighbor is true. It's very important. That's really the most important thing to have. Because in all cases, people will communicate, will be happy, will be unhappy. I mean, when we had these bearish cases, there were people who said that it was over. The crypto BTC was going to zero. It didn't happen like that. The important thing is just to be prepared. So please take as much perspective as possible from everything that happened. Really take as much distance as possible from all of this. So the other thing I wanted to show you is that we have other ways to determine. So there we have a vision, which is this. We have Solana. These are examples from the past. But in relation to examples from today, we can have things which exist in which we see today. For example, in daily, therefore, in relation to BTC. Each of these curves is the representation of an altcoin in relation to BTC. And this is something that I will show you, and that I will perhaps show you several times. It is an indicator that I used a lot in the previous one, Bullrun, to determine in the short term, is it that I have an amplification on one or two crypto, and to be able to surf the waves of acceleration and bring, in which, overall, we have a generic banner which gives me, in fact, the general trend, and everything that comes out above is outperformance. Everything that comes out below it is underperforming. There are several things to see. The first thing is to see that here, already for some time, and since around mid-October we have had an upward inclination which is taking place, that is to say that we have a trend which was mainly bearish on the entirety of this ribbon in terms of altcoin. And then we have here a figure which took place in mid-October to restart the rise. And mid-October it is what? Well, overall this is the time when there is an intensification of rumors of validation of the ETF, okay? So there we are still in this narrative for me which is close to Bullrun, but which is rather classic, which we have already experienced, which we are used to. And there, what will get me is already going to be outperformance. So we already have a certain number of cryptos which are performing well, which we are able to identify. We have others which are starting to be put in place. And what will be interesting for me to monitor, it will be which ones, when we really arrive in a very strong bull run, which ones are in very, very big overperformance. Because we can start looking into something that is much weaker, which will be in 4 hours, in which we will have dropouts, okay? And these are things that will be very interesting, in which we risk having very big dropouts. And when we have big dropouts, that's where it can be interesting. For example, we're going to look at this one. We're going to see EGLD, which had a very big acceleration, so that was the big pump. And we see that we are in the process of restructuring. But for me, it's going to be really research. And that's what I'm going to work on when we're really at the start of the bull run, in which I will have had my breath before because my hypothesis always remains the same. I have a consideration that we are going to have one breath. You determine how far we will breathe. I am not able to tell you. It will depend on where we will stop in terms of upward acceleration. Are we going to take a breather in the 36? Are we going to take a breather in 32? Are we going to breathe in the 25? I don't know. There are lots of vectors that come into play in this regard. Macroeconomics, too. If you want to have my point of view, I invite you to watch the video that I made yesterday. I will put the link at the end of this video so that you can go look, but you have my vision. Build yours. And above all, prepare yourself to be right. And to be wrong is the most important. And once again, take a step back from the emotions you feel. Take a step back from what the people show you, tell you. Above all, don't just look at the side that is shown to you. Agree there is always the other side of the scene. And above all, take a step back from all that. Protect yourself. Protect your capital because there, on it, there is only you who can do it and no one else will. Not me, not other influencers, not other people on Twitter, not people who try to influence you on comments. Take as much perspective as possible and above all, prepare yourself psychologically because this is what will be the hardest to manage. If you suffered in a bear market, I can tell you that in a bull run, you will also suffer, even if it will always be in a beautiful thing, but you will have the impression to miss a lot of opportunities. Say, but wait, there is someone who made an X10, X100 there. Why didn't I get it? How come? You're going to feel that, but like all the time. So prepare yourself psychologically. We still have a little time, but it's something you're going to feel. And there, the person you say, but he is in full overreaction, but I can assure you that these are things that you will feel when we are in bull run. Not necessarily in the same tones, in the same strength, or even in the same prerogatives. These are things that you will feel. You just have to be ready because it's going to happen. That's it. Quite simply, you have to be aware that it's going to happen. You put a little note. Why not a little post-it above, so that above your screen, like that, when you feel it, you say to yourself, "Ah well, Cryptolyze, he told me that, damn, it's true. Watch out. I'm being careful." It is the most important. If you remember that, I'm fine with this video. And I hope you liked it. If so, don't forget to leave me a like and a comment to support the work. Simply share it too, to help raise awareness of the channel. We're almost at 30,000, and it's been almost 2 years since I started the channel, on November 27. And I think we will certainly do a live performance on the Sunday of November 26th to celebrate the 2 years anniversary. And I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock, for the daily.